listeners, and good morning to all our listeners from throughout the country. What a great day it is because you are listening to Igniting Change, and we have so much to share with you this sixth day of Black History Month. Oh, we have so much. That's why our show today is called Worthy. Yes, Worthy, because we're talking about the mighty Joe Madison. We're going to pay tribute to that amazing man. We're going to be talking about the Eighth Circuit fight that we're all in to make sure that the Voting Rights Act is preserved in all of its power and its utility in fighting and defeating racial discrimination in voting. We're going to talk about Black History Month. Ooh, we're going to have a talk about what it means to have Black History Month in this year, 2024, with all the resistance. And to lead us in this discussion, you know what I'm about to do. I'm bringing up my mighty co-host, the one and only, and co-leader of the Transformative Justice Coalition, chair of the board, one of the best lawyers ever out there in this country. I'm talking about none other than Daryl Jones. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Barbara, it must be Tuesday, must be noon Eastern Standard Time because we're talking about igniting change. And Barbara, today, not only are we talking about igniting change with what's happening around the country, but we're also going to be reflecting a little bit on change that was ignited by Joe Madison and what he meant. Not only to radio, but to the African-American movement across this country. Just an incredible person, incredible man, incredible talent. Just a major loss for our country, Barbara.
Yes, it's horribly tough for those of us who love that man and loved his spirit. And we have a very special guest returning today to join us to reflect on Joe Madison, and that is the amazing Tony Hill. He is a former Florida state senator. He served 2 decades in the state legislature and as an aide to Representative Al Lawson and Mayor Alvin Brown. But the one thing I want people to know about Tony that you may not know, he's an amazing labor leader, and he's just a Florida force to be reckoned with. But most people don't know that years ago when he was in the Florida State Senate, that he actually successfully led the fight to pass legislation which mandated the teaching of African-American history in the Florida K-12 school system. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you so much. It's good to hear your voice. Good to hear also Daryl's voice. And we're ready for the fight down here in Florida in 2024.
Amen. So, Tony, you did this amazingly powerful, beautiful reel. I'll try, if with your permission, we'll put it up on our websites. But you did this amazing tribute to Joe Madison that really moved me because you captured him so perfectly. Can you tell people why you in Florida was so moved by Joe Madison?
Well, first of all, I met Joe probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and I think I met him up in the Washington area. He became a standing bearer at the A. Philip Randolph conference that we would do every year. So I had opportunity to see him there. And then, of course, last year, or was it year before? Maybe a year before last, we had our conference in Baltimore. And I saw him and his wife going up the stairs, and I assumed they were going to their room because I missed the town hall meeting that Cleola Brown, who is the president.
Mighty Cleola Brown, yes.
Right. Facilitated with Joe about what are we going to do about it? That was his favorite quote. What are we going to do about it? And so when I began to listen to radio, and I subscribed to Sirius Radio specifically for Joe Madison to hear him in the morning, the Black Eagle. Now, here's what's interesting. His fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, they illuminated around A. Philip Randolph, John Lewis, and James Weldon Johnson.
Wow.
All these icons were a member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and that's what grabbed me. And, of course, I'm a member of the Purple and Gold Omega Sapphire, but some of the folks in Jacksonville said, how in the world did you play as Omega? And you are such I'm such a what do they call it? A zealous of A. Philip Randolph and, of course, James Weldon Johnson. In fact, Barbara, tomorrow night at the Jacksonville Historic Society, we're going to do a talk around the significance of A. Philip Randolph.
Oh, awesome, awesome.
Because they grew up in Jacksonville, even though they were born in Crescent City, Florida, but grew up in Jacksonville. And not getting off the subject from Joe, but he graduated number one in his class in 1907. And
my. So,
but
Daryl.
I want to just,
I
just wanted to highlight for you the bills that Joe orchestrated, leaded, anti-lynching bill. I just heard him on the radio yesterday talking about that. Was able to get Kamala Harris to go ahead on and sponsor that. I remember when they did the hunger strike, and all this time that he was engaged in these battles, he was dealing with prostate cancer. So I want to say to the gentlemen that are 40 and older, and if you have someone in your family that has been diagnosed with prostate cancer, please get checked. Please get checked. Daryl, get checked. Get checked because it does not discriminate. And then the other thing is...
Tony.
Yes.
We're going to come back to you, but I want to get Daryl in on this discussion some too. And we know you got to leave, at 12:15. We got you. Daryl, you actually did something really remarkable in honor of Joe Madison. You were the chair of this amazing event called the Mitchell Dinner, and he was your honoree. Tell us, why was he the honoree, and what was that event like?
Well, Barbara, I tell you first, as Tony was talking about the Sirius XM, very similar to what Tony had said, I was not a Sirius XM fan. But then when I heard Joe Madison, the Black Eagle, on Sirius XM, not only did I become a fan, I subscribed. I said, I've got to be a part of this. I don't want to miss a show what this brother is bringing because he's talking so straightforward with it. So, in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, we have the Parent J. Mitchell Dinner. Parent J. Mitchell was the first African-American congressman elected below the Mason-Dixon line since Reconstruction. And one of the things that we did was that in 2018 or 19 or so, we honored Joe Madison as one of the Parent J. Mitchell awardees because of the fight that Joe Madison had brought for civil rights and voting rights across the country. One of the things that people don't know or may not know about Joe Madison is that Joe Madison led a voting registration march from California to Maryland. A lot of people are familiar with that. And it was a foot march. He really marched across the country over several weeks. And when he got to Maryland, however, there were threats that were issued to his life if he dared to try to march in Maryland. What did Joe Madison do? He called up the congressman at that time in Maryland, Parent J. Mitchell, and told him what was going on. And Congressman Mitchell, was the one that put the Maryland State Police on call and said they need to be certain that they were protected. And that was how they were able to conclude that march in the state of Maryland. So it was that type of determination from Joe Madison, that type of combination between Joe Madison and Congressman Mitchell that really moved us forward with honoring Perrin Mitchell and honoring Joe Madison at that Perrin Mitchell dinner, Barbara. So, Joe Madison always asked the question, what are you going to do about it? And this is what we're doing about it. We're picking up that mantle. He was always telling people to get out there and vote, fight for your vote. People died for your vote. You have a right to vote. This is what it's all about, Barbara, and this is why it's so important that we remember Joe Madison and that we honor his legacy and all that he stood for. He's just a towering figure. I can recall, Barbara, as well, you and I being at the John Lewis Memorial in Washington, D.C., where Joe Madison and I had the opportunity to MC that program. Again, he was battling cancer then. And,
he sure was.
But he was determined to be there for the cause. And that's what it's all about, being certain that, it's not a moment, but a movement, and it required what he would call sacrifice. And he certainly sacrificed for the movement of voting rights and civil rights, Barbara.
Wow. Thank you so much. And Tony, give us, share with our audience what else you want them to know about the mighty Joe Madison. And, I hope everybody knows that we extend all our condolences to his family, to his friends, and to all of his listeners throughout the country and world who were inspired by his spirit and by his insights and his intellect and his honesty. Tell us more, Tony.
Well, I want to piggyback on Daryl's comments and go a little deeper and let people know that Joe grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and went to Washington University and was a football player. At one time, Barbara and Daryl, Joe weighed over 200-plus pounds.
Wow.
And he went on a strict diet and disciplined himself. And so he was very familiar with the hunger strike when it came to doing that. But, I would submit to you that he was assigned to Detroit to run their NAACP. I've heard him talk about many times when they took General Motors and those folks to task and how the first black mayor of Detroit told him you can't even breed a fart in this town, and I don't know about it. But so a lot of that led Joe to do his DJ work. He did a lot of DJ work in the different stations around the country. And so when it came time to merge with Sirius Radio, that was no problem. That was not a leap for him. And so what I want to say to you is being voted to the national board of the NAACP, being on the governing board of the Red Cross, not to mention other organizations that he was a part of, and, of course, active with the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, I would like to make a recommendation, and I'm going to reach out to Leon Russell, as well as Derek Johnson, and see if we can put his name in for the Spain God Award. The Spain God Award.
Yeah.
That's the highest award in the NAACP.
Right. That would be
he's well deserved of it, and I think it might be a little bit too late now, but we're going to get with Leon and find out what is the requirements and what do we have to do. But I think he well deserves it. And then also to send a shout out to Kamala Harris that with President Biden's leadership, along with the Congress, since he had so many friends in the Congress, that he be awarded posthumously a Congressional Gold Medal.
I love it. I love it. I mean, that is such good thinking, and I love your leadership on that. Thank you so much, Tony Hill. Tony, do you have any other closing comments before you have to depart, leave us, and go to your next